Hello everyone, TLSG here, back again with another daily Marvel Snap video. Today we are back with our Sulky Hulky, the free-to-play locked account. We have neglected Sulky Hulky the last 2 weeks. Sulky Hulky is very sad. We have not been doing a good job of completing our weekly missions, our daily missions, or even grinding out boosters. We still have 1,200 credits left over, and we don't have any card that we can upgrade besides this Colossus. But I have a variant of Colossus that I'm upgrading, so I don't want to do that. And so, feeding off of last week's video, we built a Dracula deck as the primary pull 3 card, and then built filler cards around it. Now, this week, I want to do the same thing, and right now, out of the cards that we have, we could do something like a Beast Mill deck, but that's not going to be consistent or something that would be great for climbing. It would be more for fun. We have Omega Red, again, not great. It's very inconsistent. It's fun when it pops off, but it doesn't pop off all that often. Doc Ock is decent for disruption. Captain Marvel is okay. Magneto is good by himself, but not as a build-around card. With what we have now, I am thinking Destroyer, which the Destroyer deck, honestly, mainly uses pull 2 and pull 1 cards anyways, so it wouldn't be much of a change. All you really need to have is Destroyer. But we are going to unlock the 4 caches that we have. Speaking of Destroyer decks, Green Goblin is a decent asset in a Destroyer deck, but of course we're not going to use more than one pull 3 card, but he's nice to have anyways. Oh my gosh, we have had some insane luck. Last week we didn't unlock that many, and now we have the Wave. Just having Wave enables a lot of combos. They did just recently, with this season, added into pull 3, and we have now pulled it. Oh my gosh. But it's not a great build around card either. You would need other pull 3 cards to make it really good. Something like a Lockjaw would really help enable it. You could do the Jubilee to do a large minion deck. You can do a couple of other cool things with Wave. It's more of a combo piece or centerpiece than a build alone piece. So I think we are going to go with Destroyer this week. I am going to go ahead and jump over into a deck draft, and then I will be right back. Alright, so I did end up drafting a deck, and I tested it out for a couple of games. It performed very well, and I wanted to make sure that the deck list that I was drafting this week, 1, felt fun, 2, felt competitive, because this is the deck that I'm going to be running all the way up until the end of the season. And so I'm going to be pushing pretty hard now that we've hit Infinite on TLSG. I'm going to be pushing Sulky Hulky pretty hard to try to get back up to 90. And I know that I missed the weeklies the last couple of weeks, but I would like the gold and the credit rewards from 80 and 90 respectively. And so running through the deck list really quickly, first up we have Nova. So Nova is going to, when destroyed, give our cards +1 power. This is going to be good to throw into a lane that you're not going to be dropping an armor or a Colossus into, so that you can destroy this card either with a Deathlock or with a Destroyer to get the upside across all of your cards. We have Bucky Barnes, who is going to be a good card to be destroyed. If you throw him into a lane and you are paying attention to what you're doing, you can intentionally destroy the Bucky Barnes lane to generate a 6 power Winter Soldier in its place, and then anything else that you have there, whether that be the Destroyer, the Colossus, to get a further upside in the lane. And then we have Scorpion, who is a good kind of disruption style card. A lot of this deck list is going to be a hybrid between either countering and disruption or the Destroyer package. And so Scorpion falls under the disruption. If we can hit some high priority targets, this can benefit you a lot more than you might realize. And so we do have the Scorpion. We have Armor, which Armor is going to serve to protect one of our lanes. That way, when we do drop the Destroyer at the end of the game, Armor can come in and protect whatever lane and whatever cards are in that lane. We have the Flashbang himself. We have Colossus, and I'm really sad about the Flashbang because we have a really cool variant for Colossus, but as soon as we throw him onto the board, it's going to be nothing but white. But he is going to be good to be thrown into lanes like Death's Domain, into Clintar, Negative Zone, or just into a lane that you plan on later destroying with Destroyer, so that you have some additional power in that lane even after the Destroyer effect triggers. And then we have Cosmo. Cosmo is kind of like a secondary armor. It would telegraph where we are planning on playing our Destroyer on the last turn, but he also serves to counter opponents' cards. If we run into a deck list that is running a Wong, all we have to do is drop Cosmo there, and it disrupts their entire game plan. If we are anticipating a Mystique coming coming down, so a negative serotonin. We can try to drop Cosmo in the Mystique lane. That way she's not going to be able to copy the Iron Man ability, which can completely disrupt their last turn power push. We have Deathlock, who is part of the Destroyer package. He is going to destroy the other cards at this location. Most of the time, we're going to want to drop Deathlock behind an armor, but there are certain situations where we may have both Bucky Barnes and Nova on the board, and we drop Deathlock into that lane to destroy it. And then next up, we have another one of our counter cards, or our tech cards, in Enchantress. Enchantress is going to be great in the Mr. Negative meta. A lot of the power push, or the late game power push that those decks are able to do, gravitate around an Iron Man or a Mystique that copied Iron Man's ability. If you can hit one of these lanes, and if they happen to stack their Devil Dino in the same lane, all of a sudden that lane is abysmal in power, and you have a lot easier time overcoming it. We have Warpath, so if we do go with the standard Destroyer route, Warpath is going to be good to feed into one of the two lanes that we're going to have resources, so that he gets the additional +4. A 4-cost 9 power card is huge, and you can always drop our next card, the Hobgoblin, into that other lane, which won't disrupt his ability, and it gives you essentially an 8 power board presence in that lane as well. Next up, we have Professor X. We have a super sleek variant. I think we have cooler variants on Sulky Hulky than we do on our main account. And all of these have been unlocked from the free-to-play route, which is nuts. But we do have Professor X. He's going to lock down whatever location he's played in. Sometimes we may throw a Hail Mary and play this into a lane that we hope they don't play resources into that turn. Or sometimes we can play this into our lane that already has other resources to finish locking it down and protecting it from our last turn play of the Destroyer. The Destroyer is going to come in at a massive 6-cost, 16 power with the on-reveal destroy your other cards. But if they are protected by either armor or Professor X, or if you drop Destroyer into the Cosmo lane, your on-reveal won't trigger at that point, and you protect your other lanes and your other power pushes. But that is the general rundown of the deck list. It is a very standard Destroyer type list. The only other cards that you may have in here, if you're a deeper pull 3, is something like a Green Goblin. You could change out for Cosmo. You could potentially drop Enchantress for something a little bit different or a little bit higher roll, so maybe like a Rescue to follow up on turn 5 with, or there are a lot of variations of the Destroyer package. You could even drop Enchantress and have a leader for an alternate turn 6 play. A lot of opportunity, and there's a lot of room for growth and for kind of some teching depending on what you're seeing in the meta. And so that is the general idea of the deck list. We are going to go ahead and jump into a few games. I hope you guys enjoy. Alright, so first up we have Kelly, and we don't have any cards that we can play on turn 1. Kelly may very well be a bot with the default avatar, with the very standard first name, type, name. So I think we play our armor into Asgard, and then we could always follow that up with a Cosmo on 3 and a Warpath on 4. That should give us a pretty good shot at locking down that location to draw into the extra resources if Los Diablos base does not destroy it on turn 3, after turn 3. So they drop a Calling Wing, so they are running somewhat of a discard package. We can now do Cosmo, and they're not going to be able to discard any more cards if they play it here, but I don't think they do. This is a very hybrid list that bots run. They have initiative, so we don't block it this turn, unfortunately, or else we would have stopped the respawn of the Sentinel in their hand, which could have proved huge over time. Ooh, and so Los Diablos base kills Kun Lun, and so we are going to be able to drop the Warpath. We are pushing a lot of power into that one location on these first few turns, but what we're trying to do is get the upside from Asgard to draw into additional resources. Okay, and so they did use a White Queen, so they copied our Hobgoblin. We do have to remember that. The middle location is safe from cards being played there. I think we do a Nova here. We go with a Colossus and a Bucky Barnes. That is going to make us, so we have a 50-50 shot of drawing into our much needed Destroyer next turn. So maybe we don't even risk it. Maybe we stack them all in one lane. That way, if we don't draw into it, maybe we draw into Deathlock. That's fine. And in this case, since we're dropping them all, we want to drop Bucky Barnes first before the Nova. That way, if we do draw into Deathlock, Bucky Barnes is going to get destroyed before Nova does, and then that way his Winter Soldier form will get the upside in the increased power level from the Nova. So let's go ahead and lock that in. I'm not going to snap because we don't know what we're going to have on the last turn, and we do have to keep in mind that they had a Hobgoblin. They had stolen our Hobgoblin, which was originally why I didn't want to stack all 3 power in one lane, but it is what it is, right? Ooh, beautiful. Let's go ahead and snap right back, Mr. Bot. So we can do the destroyer here, that pushes us so huge in this lane. And then it will also give us a 3 power bonus in these 3 cards, which will push us up over the Devil Dino level, unless they have a Moon Girl, which could that would be a pretty hard counter, right? So Moon Girl would drop them to 3. They'd have 6 cards, which would be 12 power, 12, 20 power. This is only going to be 18. I think we really do have to worry about the Moon Girl here. So do we forego? I guess we forego Asgard then. We lose the Warpath bonus. We go ahead and drop our destroyer into Los Diablos space. That will destroy the Nova. That will destroy the Bucky Barnes. We have an okay power push in this lane and a pretty good one in Los Diablos space. I'm really afraid of the Moon Girl play here. Oh, so it's Sentinel and then is it Moon Girl? Sentinel Moon Girl? Yeah, we got the call right. So I don't actually know that is enough to win, right? Because Bucky Barnes will get destroyed. His Winter Soldier form will get the Nova bonus. That is going to put us at 11 power into the ruins, 17 power in Los Diablos space. Not a bad start to our climb. We will take 8 cubes and jump into the next one. All right, next up we have Stir Nexus. And the first play, we don't have anything that we can drop. Iceman hits our Hobgoblin. So that's going to make us really want to lean towards dropping Professor X on 5, since we're not going to be able to play the Hobgoblin appropriately. If we do, I mean, it's a weird play path, but we could potentially do a Cosmo into Bar with No Name, followed by a Hobgoblin on turn 6 to make sure we have the least power in that location. It'd be super, super odd to win that way, but it is a potential play line, depending on if it looks like we're going to be beaten in these other lanes or not. And so they play a lot of 1-cost cards. I am anticipating that they have like a Khazar, that they have maybe Blue Marvel, something to buff up these 1-cost cards. And we don't run a Killmonger in this list. We thought about it to have another trigger for Nova. I thought about it to be able to clear 1-cost cards from the board, but I ended up going with Scorpion instead. Oh, so Mirror Dimension could be huge for us here. If Mirror Dimension turns into Bar with No Name, we pretty much win unless they can destroy their own cards. So let's go ahead and pass here. I think we may have a decent shot at this. And so it is Bar with No Name. How strange. Such a strange game. We're going to go ahead and stack the Xandar location to try to lock it down. But I honestly think we win. Let's go ahead and snap. Let's see if we can make them retreat. We're going to push our advantage. This double Bar with No Name, unless they have a way to change locations, they're playing a losing match already. All right, so they do end up making the right call in retreating there. Just a really tough game. You don't see Bar with No Name very often, but when you do, it can be some really crazy games. I really like it whenever you have Baxter building with Bar with No Name, because then if you win Baxter building, you lose Bar with No Name, and so it creates some really crazy potential gameplays. All right, next up we have Kytras, and the first location is Elysium. So we're going to be able to play Bucky Barnes on turn 1. We can hold Nova until we know for sure if and where we want to drop it. So we can always throw it as a Hail Mary into Danger Room if we need to. And then we do have armor to protect our cards here, which I think we'll end up doing. That'll allow us to make sure that we can push power into the Danger Room without too much issue. Ooh, and so they use a wave here. So what could they be running with something? Because now they can drop just about anything onto the board. We could do our Professor X somewhere, but I'm a little bit afraid that they will drop something rather large. I think with this, we are going to go ahead and do the Hobgoblin into Wakanda. And then depending on what they play, we'll have a better idea of if we should drop Professor X on 5 or not. So they do a magic to extend the game in Wakanda. Interesting. So maybe they're running some kind of big onslaught style combo, and if so, we can get some pretty good upside from dropping our Enchantress. So I'm gonna go ahead and destroy our Bucky Barnes, destroy our Nova, and then destroy with Deathlock to create a pretty big Elysium lane. And then depending where they drop their resources, we could potentially lock this one down with Professor X next turn. We could potentially try to lock this one down. It just really depends on what they end up dropping here. Ooh, and so they drop an Iron Man. Okay, so I don't think we want to lock this one down. I think they're going to push quite a bit of power there with that ongoing ability. So maybe we do a Colossus and a Professor X here. That's going to push a decent amount of power into this lane. It's either that or we do both here, since we already have a 2-point lead in the Limbo lane. I think we do Danger Room, though. Although I think they're more likely to drop resources in Danger Room this turn. But if we can sneak this one away, it's going to be really... Actually, no. They're much more likely to drop big resources into either Danger Room or Elysium. So let's go with the Limbo location. I don't think they're going to drop anything. If they do, it would be an Odin, which I don't know if Hobgoblin can re-trigger after we have it locked down. So Odin would be able to re-trigger on reveal abilities, but I just don't know if Hobgoblin would still move with it. And so let's go ahead and do that. Right now we do have an 8-point lead. Ooh, so they drop a Lizard, which is not going to be enough currently. If they were able to hit their Omega Red here, it'd be huge. I actually think we pass because we know that they're going to be going all in on the Omega Red lane. Let's go ahead and snap. They may potentially retreat. They may not. But we know that even if we skip here, they can't rechange the Limbo lane. We are guaranteed a 7th turn. And so then we can counter their play on that last turn. So is this an Onslaught? Yeah. And then we'll come in with a Mystique for the very last turn. So right now they are winning the other locations. That gives them kind of that false sense of security. Then we come in with the bully herself, the Enchantress. So when she works incredibly well. It's kind of like a Shang-Chi. If you have a good target for her, it's beautiful. And actually, could a Cosmo... I mean, oh no. I don't see them running a Cosmo, but a Cosmo could brick the Enchantress here. It's kind of scary. We are going for an 8-cube game here. I don't think that is a high enough possibility or probability to retreat here because it's one card that doesn't really synergize well with the ongoing abilities. So I would anticipate a Mystique here to cap out this location, but we have been wrong before. So right now it's going to look like they hit that ultimate high roll. They're going to have like 30 power in both lanes, and then we take away 2,000 power in the Elysium location. And so just really, really unfortunate. It feels awful whenever you are running a combo and get hit with this because an Omega Red relies so much on those resources from that one lane that if we hit that counter card, it's huge. And so we do end up swinging all 3 locations because we were able to cancel out the Onslaught, the Iron Man, and the Omega Red. So then all they had was the 5 and 6 from these 2 cards. So that is another 8 cubes in the bag. If we keep going like this, we started at 68. If we keep going like this, we're going to have no problem climbing. So we're going to keep pushing for a little bit, and we will be right back with another game. Guys, do you know what time it is? Oh, we're right on time? Okay, good. I thought we were late. So next up we have late. It turns out they're late and not us. We've been waiting for you forever, man. The goodest of boys, Cosmo, has his own time schedule. Let's go ahead and skip turn 1. Turn 2, we will do a Colossus. Turn 3, potentially a Deathlock. That will allow us to push a decent amount of power into the Asgard lane. If we can keep them from drawing those resources and we can draw them ourselves, then that would be... Ooh, never mind. Maybe we forego pushing for Asgard. We can do something like a Scorpion and a Nova. If we can get a good enough upside, we may even destroy this lane on turn 4 to generate some upside in our Deathlock as well. If we can get a big enough lead, we can lock down both 2 locations on turn 5. And so we are going to negatively impact 4 of their cards twice through Sinister London, which is huge. Ooh, so maybe Mr. Late is running the Thor deck that we were running, because Angela, Zero are very common for those. So maybe we do a double armor. Nah, that protects it, and we don't want it to do that. I'm gonna go ahead and drop Deathlock here and then here. If it is that same deck that we ran before, they're gonna have potentially an 8 power push with a Jane Foster. And if they had Thor, that would have been huge in Sinister London. That would have been absolutely massive. So we do have the Typhoid Mary going for the win in Asgard, huh? Okay. Okay, so do we gamble here? I don't know that it's the best play, but they won the coin flip from the draw. We do have initiative, so if they are doing something where so like if we lock down this one and this one, we have the upside of knowing exactly what power they have in the Asgard lane. And then if we get the downside of locking down this one, then we have to compete here, and that becomes pretty tough. Let's do it. Let's lock it in. They may do a double Iron Man, which wouldn't do them any good in Sinister London. Or, oh no, what is going on? No, why? Okay, well, what? Do we have we don't have a way to, oh no. Do you think we can bluff it? Hold on. We're going to go, ooh, good eyes on the Nova. Let's go ahead and snap at them. Can we get a retreat here? We're up enough cubes that it's okay. But if we were to be able to destroy our Nova, so let's say we had a destroyer, that is going to destroy Nova. It would give this one a 2 power buff, which would push us up over Sinister London. They're not buying it, are they? They're not buying it. They're going to make us play it out. No, they snap back. Run away. All right, it was worth a shot. We're up quite a few cubes. We only risked 1 additional cube. Unless they just made us play it all the way through, then we risked 3 additional cubes. But had we drawn into Destroyer there, we did have a legitimate means of winning with buffing up these 2 cards, giving us the advantage in Sinister London. So unfortunately, that's not what we drew into. The Typhoid Mary into the double Taskmaster was huge. And they could have actually done a Typhoid Mary into Sinister London, and both would have been zeroed out. And then the double Taskmaster for a 40 power turn 5 and turn 6 total would have been really, really huge. All right, so next up we have Harbor. That sounds right. Unfortunately, we get the Green Goblin pull from Sakaar and the armor, so we're not even able to destroy that poor Green Goblin. Super unfortunate, but we are going to go ahead and drop our Nova. We can drop Bucky Barnes, depending on what this location is. We do have our Destroyer. So we'll have some upside there. We're going to throw Bucky Barnes. Actually, let's go ahead and throw Bucky Barnes into Jotunheim. That's going to, he's going to currently lose, so we're not going to have initiative for the rest of the game until the very last turn when we end up destroying him. So we'll be able to drop the Destroyer. It will flip him. It will change that location. We'll get a good amount of upside from the card. And so, oh no. So we either compete for Sakaar and Jotunheim, or we compete for Mojo World, which we would have to draw into something like a Cosmo to make sure that our Destroyer does not go off in this location. And so I think right now, at least, we're going to push towards Mojo World. Colossus is also good in Jotunheim, where he won't lose power over time. Now, if we can draw into a Professor X and we have the card advantage in Mojo World by turn 5, then we can get some pretty big upside in the lane. Maybe we do Deathlock. We hope for a Professor X top deck. We have a 1 out of 5 Professor X chance here. We'll drop Deathlock into the Sakaar lane, and then looks like they're running a very, very similar deck to what we're running. And so then they do drop armor. They dropped a Deathlock. Oh, we get Scorpion. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and drop Hobgoblin into Jotunheim. Depending on what they drop. They don't have any great targets for a Professor X. Potentially Sakaar, but even that I think is a little bit risky on their part. So they have a Hobgoblin. We have a Hobgoblin. I enjoy your Hobgoblin, bro. I hope you enjoy ours as well. So they are running a very, very similar deck to what we're running. So now the question becomes, where do we drop Destroyer? So currently, if we drop Destroyer, actually, no. So if they are going to go the Destroyer route, we win, right? So no matter what. So if they go to the Destroyer route here, we win. If they go Destroyer route here, we also win because we'll have an additional card. Doesn't matter where we put Destroyer though. So putting it here will give us 2 cards. Putting it here will give us just 1. So then if they did have a leader, potentially they could counter us by having the leader and then this here. We know that we're probably going to win Jotunheim because of the Bucky Barnes. So let's go ahead and drop a leader into Mojo World, and then we will just kind of hope. Oh, so they drop 2 cards. So they drop a Warpath, okay. And then they drop a Daredevil, but that's not going to be enough to win the Jotunheim lane. That's just not quite enough to spin it. So we're going to have the 100-point lead in Mojo World. We have the upside of having a Winter Soldier in Jotunheim. They have to keep the Hobgoblin. Very unfortunate. I'm guessing they didn't draw into Destroyer there to be able to try to push their upside and continue their upside. But we do gain back the 2 cubes that we gambled on the last match. Let's go ahead and jump into one more and see if we can get one more 8-cube win. All right, next up we have Strife, and the first location is Wakandan Embassy, which should help us try to lock down a location with our Professor X on 5. So here we can do an armor into either the left or the middle lane. Do we like hiding our cards? We can do armor, Deathlock. That way they have no idea what we're playing, right? Armor, Deathlock. We can even do as much as a Warpath, and then try to sneak a lane away with Professor X, and hopefully we draw into Destroyer by that point. I don't think it's a terrible idea. Let's go ahead and snap on them. No, what is with the debris decks? Why? Okay, just stop it, okay? We don't want any trouble. Okay, so I'm gonna go with a Warpath into the sewer system. If this is one that runs Claw again, that's awfully tough. Awfully tough. Ooh, so they run a Scarlet Witch, oh no, which generates a Shadow Ninja, which then they're able to eat with Carnage. How very fortunate. Super fortunate, right? I think we do a Hobgoblin here to try to maintain our upside. That negative ninja is just super unfriendly. He's so mean. So they have an Iron Man, which with our Hobgoblin is going to end up equaling out to 0 here. So they're going to have to drop a decent play there. We have a pretty good power push in the Dark Dimension that they don't know about. I think we do Colossus and we do Enchantress. Super weird way to win, but I think we can do it. Oh wait, Enchantress will counter our +4. Do we think that matters though? So this will equal out to 7 either way, unless they drop a 7 power card, which is not too common for debris junk decks, but they could be running a Doc Ock that they play here as well. It is a tough decision, a very tough decision. We could even go with a Professor X, which would give us 12 power, but then all they have to drop is 6. So this way, at least they have to drop a 7 power card, which I don't know that the 1 extra makes a difference. Yeah, let's go for it. We're going to lock in with the 4 play. They play a Warpath. Ooh, which we cancel out their Warpath when we cancel out ours, so it's only a 5 power play and not a 7. So we know that that is not enough for them. What a whirlwind, strange deck, my friend. The RNG from the Shadowland, the Scarlet Witch change, the debris was huge, but luckily we had dropped enough resources that it wasn't able to clog us up too much. Oh my gosh. And either way, their Warpath wouldn't have triggered, right? Because of the debris. So it's weird that they ran both, because at that point, Warpath is not going to be able to trigger unless you have a way to remove the rocks altogether. But it was not an 8-cube win, but at least we will settle with a 4-cube win. And that is not a traditional win condition or win path. And so I do like ending on that kind of note, because that shows that there are multiple ways to win. You can have your counter cards, which are going to strongly counter things like Iron Man, strongly counter things like Omega Red, and then you don't even need Destroyer if you're able to counter either an Honorville deck or a really ongoing heavy or ongoing dependent deck as well. But I hope that you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave it a like and a comment down below. We are going to be grinding to try to get some new pulls on Sulky Hulky so that we can have some fresh choices next week of what pull 3 card we want to build around. But as always, I hope that you guys have a great rest of your weekend. This has been TLSG. Later, guys.